Good morning. We are on Daf Yomi base. We begin the new parak of Osin Pasin. Baruch Shechiyanu that we come to the second parak of Eruvin. Osin Pasin is something we already saw, that there was the travelers, and travelers needed water, and there was a need to be able to bring up the water from the wells, which are a Rishus HaYachid, a private domain, because it's 10 tefachim deep, 4 by 4. And in order to bring that up, you would bring it into a Rishus HaRabim, a public domain, because these were travelers on an intercity road. And in order to permit this, the Chachamim were lenient to go to the Oraisa, go back to the Oraisa minimum requirements of a Rishus HaYachid, of creating a boundary. And even though that we know that we've been learning for several days now, that there's a question when you have walls around, whether it's a chutzner, a courtyard, or a mavui, an alleyway, that it would require meruba omed ala paretz, more standing wall than a breach, or at least equal. But if it's paretz meruba, if there's a majority that's open, it wouldn't count. Yet, in regards to the wells, the Chachamim went to the leniency that it could have meruba paretz, mostly not there, as long as Tues explains here, there's a wall on each side, and since all 4 walls are enclosed, even though that it's on a minority, it would count. And so what the Chachamim enacted was 4 L-shaped corners, which means that there's 2 amma on each side. So for each side, that actually looks, even though that there are four structures, but on each side there's 2 walls on the far ends, and then as you turn, there's another 2. But these are connected in the L shape, and therefore there are 4 structures that are really 8 walls, because there are 2 walls on each side. So osim pasin liberois, we make these pasin, these L-shaped boards for wells. Arba duyumdin, 4 duyumdin, 4 that's a Latin and Hebrew compound word. Du, 2, umdin, standing. So two amudin, two pillars that are standing. So that's an L-shaped pillar. Nirin kashmoina, the Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda says it's sufficient to have these 4, which now look like 8. They look like 8 because the southwest corner has a south wall and a west wall, and the southeast corner has a south wall and an east corner. So each one really creates 2 walls. And Rabbi Meir Shmona, you need 8 such pillars. Nirin kashnei masar, which would look like a total of 12. In other words, in the middle of each wall, you need another flat board. So you need 4 diumdim, 4 L-shaped corners, and 4 flat walls in the middle of those, which would give you a total of 8, because a total of 12. 8 total standing, 8 posts, because you have the 4 corners, I have the 4 middles, but they look like 12 because on each side what you see is a total of 3, the 2 corners plus 1 in the center. 4 L-shaped, 4 double walls, meaning a wall on corners, and 4 flats. The minimum height for them are going to be 10 tefachim. V'rachvan shisha, and the width is going to be 6 tefachim, which is 1 amma. V'ovyan kolshu, how thick does it have to be? Anything, as long as it stands. Ubeneim, between these walls, kamaloy shnei revakishel It's two. I don't know what the English word that they would use for it. Basically, two teams, two cows, two sets of 3 cows side by side.
A pair?
What?
A pair?
They use the word pair, but it's 3, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I thought it was 2. I'm sorry.
No, two sets of 3. So it's 3 animals together and 3 animals together. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's what Rabbi Meir says, because he says the maximum is 10. Sorry?
Triad.
Great. I'll use Revukas. It's just as easy. It's a Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says the maximum width is 10 amos between them, and that's the maximum gap. And so that's 2 sets of 3 animals side by side. And Rabbi Yehuda Eimer Shel Arba, and he says it's 4 arba 4 cows and 4 cows, and so that he gets a total of 13 and change. Kashuros v'lo mutaros, and they have to be tied together, not just loose. So this way they are tighter together. Achas nechlachas v'achas yotzes, and one set of 3 walking in, or 4 walking in, and one set of 4 or 3 walking out, which is a leniency, because that would mean that they are wider. Mutar lahakriv l'be'er. Now you can bring these enclosures or these corners, these boundaries, close to the well, but it has to have some distance from the well. It has to have enough distance that a cow can be drinking from water by the well, and its head and most of its torso will be in, because otherwise the cow may step back and trying to care for the cow to drink, you may follow and bring the water out, and therefore, and carry from a private domain to Rishus HaRabim, public domain, and therefore it must have enough space that even if it stepped back, and you would not be carrying out. It has to be that a cow's head and most of its torso would be in Rishus, so they can drink. And how far can it be from the well? You can be far enough, as far as you see that you'd like to make this square around the water. But you need another post, another board between the gaps, because as we see, the maximum gap is allowed to be 13 1/3 according to Rabbi Yehuda, and 10 according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer ad beis asayim. Rabbi Yehuda says the maximum that this space can enclose is 2 seah. 2 seah planting area, beis asayim, which we saw over the past few days. That's 50 by 100. Each seah plants 50 by 50, so 50 by 100, or 70 and change by 70 and change. He says no. This concept of a maximum space of beis asayim is only in regards to a area that is enclosed not for dwelling, such as some wood storage area or a vegetable garden where nobody walks. It's not meant to go besides for the purpose of collecting some of that. But water is a basic staple. So that's something that is made for that's an enclosure made for living. But if it was an animal's pen that moves from place to place wherever you want it to pasture, or sar, or muktzah, or chotzer, afilu beis chameshes kurim. So, but if it's a place that is a pen, a barn, a back patio, front courtyard, all these places are made for daily living, and therefore you can be enclosing even a much larger area, and that would also be okay. Even 5 kur, even 10 kur mutter, it's going to be okay. You're allowed to do that since it's made for living, and water is drinking is living. So therefore, you can be as distant as you want to take it, as long as you add more boards as needed. So whose opinion is our Mishnah? So let's say that our Mishnah is not the opinion of Hanania. The Tani we learned, Hanania said, the Brisa says that you're allowed to make these corners for well, and as we saw at the last Mishnahs of the previous parak, you can have for a caravan, you can be lenient in having either vertical posts or only horizontal posts, such as the ropes, or as a sufficient wall. But Hanania says chavalin lebor avalo passive, and Hanania says that you can't have for a well water. It's not sufficient to have just the diyumdin, these corners. You have to have the horizontal cross posts as well, which would be the ropes, and that would make it sufficient. Now, everybody would agree you can't make these passing, this leniency of having just 4 L-shaped corners for a caravan because it's too open, and even though Tues says that on a Araisa level, you're allowed to have it more open than standing on account of that it's it's enclosed on all 4 walls, but that's only a leniency for water. That's not a leniency that was made for shiara for a caravan. It is going to require that the majority of the wall is standing. But Hanania says that no, that even for water, we didn't make that leniency. It would have to be that you have the ropes, which would be in the state of lavud, because they're within 3 tefachim of each other, which counts as a halachic solid wall. The Gemara says no. This could even be true for Hanania. Bor lechud, be'er lechud. There's a distinction between a water pit, which is just a pit, and it doesn't have a well that feeds it, and so it's really just a rainwater pit that gathers the water, and that's why Hanania prohibited it. You can't have just these diyumnin, because the water could be in midsummer. You may not have water there, and when you no longer have water, the walls are irrelevant, because the only reason that we go back to the basic, the most lenient Daraisa level of boundaries is because you have 4 boundaries and just 1 amma on each corner, is because you need it for water. It's a leniency for the water, and once the water is gone, it's going to be it's no longer relevant. And since this is a well, this is a water pit and not a well, it doesn't have an underwater source, underground source. So it actually in the summer will dry up, and people will continue to carry within there. Whereas a be'er, if it has a wellspring, so there the water is always going to be there, and therefore even Hanania would agree that the diyumdin is going to be sufficient. And however, there are those that say, since Hanania did not make a distinction, and he did not say you must have ropes for a pit, but you don't need ropes, and diyumdin and these pasin are going to be sufficient for a well, then he makes no distinction, and for both it's not going to be valid, and indeed our Mishnah would not be the opinion of Hanani. So then our Mishnah is not like Hanani. So one says, no, then we say no, that really he would say that that even that even these Dumin are going to be sufficient for a well. And yes, he didn't make a distinction because he was just responding to what the Tanna Kama said, which is a bor, a water pit, and not a well. Fine. So we can't prove that our Mishnah is not the opinion of Hanani. What about, maybe it's not the opinion of Rabbi Akiva? The Tanan, as we learned later, Rabbi Akiva said, Echad be'er harabim, a bor harabim, a well of the that belongs to the masses, and a water pit that belongs to the rabbim, to the community, a be'er hayachid, and a wellspring of an individual, osel pasim. So all these are going to be sufficient that with the pasim, with these corners. Aval bar yachid, but a pit, a water pit that belongs to an individual, and that needs a general, that needs a proper wall. And the reason is because when it's a community well or even a community water pit, once there's no water, people say, by the way, the well is dry, no carrying in there. People will remind each other. But a private person, nobody's going to remind them. A well, say, you don't have to be concerned because there's always going to be water there. But a private person's water pit that does not have an underground water source, so then it may dry out, and there's no one there to remind him that you're not allowed to carry within there, and he may carry, so therefore there you need proper walls. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Over here, our Mishnah says, which seems only for wells, and not for water pits, even of the community. So Gemara says, "Afilo temer Rabbi Akiva, be'er ma'im chaim the psikale loishna rabim loishna the yachid ktani." Our Mishnah, since it wanted to just say a general concept of how to make these corners, so it used that which doesn't require a qualification. So I mentioned wells because wells never dry out, and therefore. Or generally don't dry out, and so therefore there's no distinction between an individual person's well and a community well. And so the Mishnah, in trying to teach about what the size and the minimum and the maximum of these pasin are, just use the example that doesn't need a qualification. But a water pit, which needs a qualification, a community water pit, not an individual's water pit, and so the Mishnah didn't mention that. Bar bar mechunasin, but a pit of gathered water, the lipsikale, which is not general, and you need, it's not it wouldn't be exacting to just say you could put a wall there. You would have to make a qualification and say only of the community, not of an individual, like a tani. So therefore, he didn't mention it. Lema masnitin deloika Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. So let's say our Mishnah is not the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava because we have a Mishnah later that it seems that not like our Mishnah. The Tanam we learned Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Eimer Ein Pasin Ela Be'er Harabim Milvad. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava says that only a wellspring that belongs to the community, that's where we were lenient for the Pasin. But for private person's wellspring or a community or even a community water pit, that would not be sufficient need, or would not be lenient to allow these corner L's as the pasin as sufficient. The in our Mishnah didn't make a distinction between a community well or an individual's well. And where it says, perhaps our Mishnah can even be in concurrence with the Rehudim and Bava. My birois, the Alma. When it says birois, wells, it means, it doesn't mean all wells, whether community or individual, but rather the many community wells. But it is still talking about communal wells as opposed to individuals' wells. Mighty Yumdin. Rabbi Yirmi ben Lazar. Rabbi Yirmi ben Lazar said, "Do you amudim? Two posts, two pillars. Each one of the pillars, each one of these posts, essentially is two. One on the west side and one on the south side. One on the west side and one on the north side. So each L-shaped corner that has an amma, and an amma essentially is a dual pillar." Now that we mentioned the statement of Rabbi Yirmi ben Elazar, the Gemara is going to give us a whole list of Agadaic teachings, Agada teachings from Rabbi Yirmi ben Elazar. And the siman for that is the mnemonic to remember all these. Dion lemenuda shevach zonis niskalkel b'mida shlosha siman. Tanan we learned over there. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer kol hashitin beturin. These are bad figs. I mean, not ripe or not good figs are exempt. They are exempt from. We saw the other day the halacha that when you purchase produce from the market, so you have to take tithes because you don't know. You have to take meiser because you don't know whether the seller actually took meiser or not. People were careful with teruma. Not everybody was careful with taking meiser tithes, and so when you purchase, you have to take. Whereas from these bad figs, you're exempt because everybody takes tithes from that because nobody really cares about losing 10% of that product because it's not so good. Chutz mina diyufra. Besides for this type of fig called diyufra, there people are actually do like it, and therefore they may hold back from taking ma'aseh. My diyufra. And what is diyufra? Amar ula ilana isa dioperis b'shana. It's a tree that makes two crops a year, two full harvests a year. Amar Rabbi Elazar, diopartzef. Now that we mentioned this dio, two crops, and we mentioned in our Mishnah the two posts, that each post has two sides, and so it counts as a double post. So Rabbi Yirmi ben Elazar says there's another double. Adam Arishon was essentially created as a Siamese twin, as a conjoined person. Du partzufin, two faces, was the creation of Adam. Shenema, for it says achor v'kedem tzartani, fore and back, I was created. And it says Hashem constructed or built the tzela, which we're going to say the side or the bone, from Adam into Chava to create the Chava. So Rav and Shmuel disagree in the explanation. One says that it was a separate person that Hashem just divided from Adam and from Adam. So Chava and Adam were already existent people, but they were conjoined, and Hashem split them. And one says that it's a part of the back of the spine, the spinal cord, which would be a tail. Bishlam lamanama partzuf. So according to the one that says that she was a fully developed person that Hashem just separated, that means that Hashem created me as two people, one in front, one behind, and we were divided. But the one who says that it was just a part of the spine that was removed, and which would be the tail, what's the meaning of front and behind? Tzartani. The Amar Rabbi Ami said, last, and first doesn't mean that Adam and Chava were created together and then separated, but rather it's talking about the last of the acts of creation in the order. But v'kedem l'paranis, but the first to be able to break its nature, or rather break its destiny. All of nature is set in motion, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts them in their cycles, their service. We are the first one of all of nature that we can choose to do good or to do bad, to actually do what we're supposed to do, or the opposite. So it's the last of creation, fine. Delay ivri ad malin Shabbos, only created at the end of the creation story by Erev Shabbos. Ela bekedem l'paranis. What does that mean? First two paranis. Ilay mishum kollel. Is it because we were cursed first after the eating from the forbidden fruit? It's not true that the snake got cursed first. And then Chava, and after that only Adam Arishon. Ela lamabel, the first to be destroyed at the Mabel. Everything that was on the face of the earth was destroyed. All that is upright, all that is standing. From man to animal. So we see that man was created, was destroyed first. So according to the one that says that there was two separate humans, that's why it says that Hashem formed him. It says it in with two yuds to tell you that there was a double formation. Hashem formed the human in male and female, and then separated them. But if it was really a part of the male and then separated out, so why does it say that it was the double yud, that there was a double creation or double formation of the human? And when it says woe to me from my yetzer, from my evil inclination, and woe to me from my creator. If I try and stand with what I believe is right and upright, and the Torah tells me to do, so then my inclination is pushing me one way. And if I follow that, so then woe to me from my creator, who has guided me in the upright way. So, okay, according to the opinion that says that there was two people conjoined that was separated. The pasuk says Hashem formed the human Adam from the Adama, Zachar and Nekeva bara'am, male and female. He created them. So already from the start, they were created male and female. But according to the version that it was separated out from a bone and a new construction. So why does it say that Hashem created Adam in male and female? So this is the teaching of Rabbi Abo, Rami. Rabbi Abo has a contradiction in the verses. It says male and female, they were created. And it says in the image of Hashem, it created him. But also from the start, the intent was that the human actually be two separate beings. The human needs to be two different beings, male and female, in order to be able to advance and develop properly. The human must have an Ezer Kenegdo, must have a helpmate that challenges him, so that we can grow, and that's the purpose of the female, to help grow, and together we can become the purpose of creation. However, but in order to be able to do that, it must be that they were originally created as a single entity. And but in creation, in the formal, in its actual formation, it only was created as a single entity. Because anytime there's an entity that challenges the other, it would be destructive to the other unless they originate as one. and then they can be separated, and then the challenging of each other is to elevate. And that's why at first the intent is to be two separate beings who will challenge and uplift each other. But in order to uplift, it has to start as one. So Batachila, in its original intent, it is two, then created as one, and then separated. So the one that says that it was already a being and just separated off, so it says that there was flesh to seal that wound of cutting off. But according to the one that says that it was just a part of the bone and it was removed and the tailbone and then created into another whole being, actually it was removed and nothing was replaced there, because that's totally removed. You're right, it's only for the place of the incision itself. The removal of the tail is why it says that Vayiven Hashem reconstructed, he built Chava. But according to the version that she was already fully constructed, it was two people that were conjoined and just split apart. My Vayiven, why does it say there that Hashem built her? Look at Rabbi Shimon ben Nasi. That's the teaching of Rabbi Shimon ben Nasi. The Rabbi Shimon ben Nasi, Vayiven Hashem Elokim es hatzela. Hashem constructed this tzela, which in this version means the side and not tzela, the bone. Melamed shekila kadosh baruch hu lechava. Hashem adorned Chava by braiding her hair and making her nice. Vehivia la'adam harisha, and brought her to Adam Arisha. Hashem wanted to create created within the nature of the human a desire for the beauty of the woman. And where did you see the hint for this in the verse? Because kliyasa, which is the braided hair, the braids, is in some language on the islands called b'niyasa. Davar achar, another interpretation. Vayiven Hashem Elokim. What does it mean that Vayiven Hashem constructed? If she was already there. Either Chisda or the Brisa teaches Malamed Shebana Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Chava Kebinyan Otzer, that Hashem created Chava, being a female, with a construction that actually can conceive and carry children. So the pelvis is wider and creating an otzer, a shape creation. Ma otzer zeh racham elamata v'katzam elamala. Just as an otzer, a storehouse, is wider on the bottom and narrower on top, kadei lekabel peres, because that's where you store the produce. So too, the construction of the female was wider on the bottom so that it can carry children. Kadei lekabel savlad, to carry children. Vayavia ela adam, and then Hashem brought her to man. In this way, Hashem accompanied and brought, was sort of the bridesmaid to Chava, bringing her to Adam to the wedding. We see that even a great person can be a shoshvin, the one who aids and assists the bride or the groom, for even someone lesser, smaller than them. Don't feel too proud about that. Just a short, usually we don't have time to go into the Agadata, but quickly, the human being is the only creature that whose joint at the spine to the hip actually curves back up so that we can be upright, and this way face the other. And that's what the idea of removing the tailbone is, to allow the human being to be upright, to be face to face and have a relationship. And as such, that's what this last part is. Hashem brought her to him, meaning the ability to be face to face and have a relationship.
This Gemara is brought on lahalacha in Chavetz Chaim in Avos Chesed, that this is the halacha that a gadol does is obligated in Gemilas Chesed to a cotton.
Correct. We learn from here that anybody, no one is exempt of kindness to someone else on account of, look, my position is so great, I can't be kind to, I don't have to do chesed for, the little people, right? There is no, there are no little people. Everyone deserves chesed. And everybody's obligated, regardless of their position, to do chesed. So now the Gemara says, Laman Amar parts of, according to the opinion that there were two people combined, Haiminai is Sagi Beresha. Which one walked ahead? Now, I'm not sure what the image here. Were they side by side? Were they back to back? Were they front to back? Were they? I don't understand really the question because I'm not sure. What it's implying. Either way, obviously they shouldn't be taken as a literal thing entirely anyhow. But what is the direction over here? So who goes first? Amar Menachem Yitzchak. Mistaber the Zochas Agi Beresha.
Emily made a point of dinner last night.
It's brought down in the Sorim that the question is whether both were facing forward, so to speak, or one was facing north and one was facing south.
Yes.
And
they were attached back to back?
Back to back, yeah.
Who's saying this?
I've seen it in the Sorim. I think maybe in the Rishon's Chochmah, but I've seen it brought down in the Sorim.
Okay. I'm not sure what the meaning is, but either way, it's logical based on this brisa that a person this human that had this conjoined human at first, male and female, was that the male walked forward. The Tanya, as we learned, because a man should not walk behind the woman on the path. And even if it's his wife, as you know, as the Gemara explains, because if it's even on a bridge which is narrow and it's hard to go, nevertheless lean off to one side. And if you follow a woman behind a woman in the river, where in order to protect her garment, is going to lift up her garment to walk across this stream or this river, you lose your portion in the world to come, because this is objectification of the woman and lowering the dignity of the self in order to look at and feast your eyes off of another human, and that's a loss of the self. In any case, since it would be inappropriate to walk behind the woman because then you're gazing at her, so therefore it's logical that Adam walked in front and not Chava. Okay. Somebody who counts out coins to a woman from his hands to her hands in order to be able to gaze at her, or he has her count out coin by coin to his hands, so that he can have more time to gaze at her. Even if in Torah he's so great that it's like he received Torah at Mount Sinai, nevertheless, for that he will lose. He will need to be cleansed in Gehenna. He will not be cleansed otherwise. Because of Amar, and about him it says yad liyad, from a hand to a hand. If you're using your hand to pause time and gaze at a woman, le'yanake ra, le'yanake medina shel Gehenna. You will not be saved from the evil that comes to that, and would need the cleansing of Gehenna. Amar Nachman Menoach Amar Etzayah. Rav Nachman says, based on this, Menoach was not learned. Shenema, for it says, Menoach got up and followed his wife. Now, in truth is, I don't understand the point. His wife came and said, the Ishal Akim, the holy man, the prophet, came to see us, and so she needed to show him where, and so he followed his wife. Nevertheless, Rav Nachman says he shouldn't have done that. What about Elkanah? It says Elkanah went and followed his wife. There too, you're going to say that he was ignorant on account of that he followed his wife. No, he followed his wife because she had to show him. Same here. Elisha was a prophet, the Navi, the great Elisha. When the Shunammite woman came and said, "Look, my son has died," and Elisha followed her. There too, you're going to say it was wrong. What it means is that he followed her direction and her words. He followed direction and her words. Amar Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi said, but according to the opinion of Rav Nachman, if we say that Menach was ignorant, he didn't even know a verse in the Torah. For the Sefer it says, Rivka got up together with her maidens, and they got onto the camels, and they followed the man. But they didn't go in front of him. Again, I don't understand the proof there. She didn't know the direction. Eliezer was bringing her back to Avram's house, so of course she followed the man. I'm not sure the comparison. I'm Rabbi Yechanan. I'd rather walk behind the lion than walk behind the woman. But behind a woman and not behind an idolater. And rather behind an idolater rather than behind the shul, walking behind the shul when they're davening, because it looks like you're ignoring the tefillah and don't join in that service. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, all the years that Adam Arishon was excommunicated on account of eating the forbidden fruit, it says that that 130 years he was excommunicated from Hashem. So those years he created evil spirits. Shenamar, it says Adam that he lived 130 years. Vayoled b'demusa ketzalmon, that he finally created in his image and in his form. But before that, he created spirits that were bad, that were not in his image. So we asked the question: who was a great, kind person, a super good person? Once he saw that death was brought to a human being on account of him, so he fasted for 130 years. And he separated from his wife 130 years. And covered himself with clothing, girded himself with figs. 150 years. Kikam Rinan. You're right. He did separate himself, but nevertheless, he would have semen emission in his sleep or something, and that created evil spirits. If you praise someone, you don't praise them entirely in their face, to their face. You give them some praise, but when you're not in front of them, you can say more praise. When do you see that you say some of their praise in front of them? Because it says, Hashem says to Noach, I've seen you as a righteous person, as a tzaddik, in front of me, in this generation. But not in front of him, even more praise. The Sefer says, Noach ish tzaddik tamim hayeh. Because there, at the beginning of introduction of Noach, not when Hashem is speaking to Noach, but about him, there it says, Noach ish tzaddik, he was a righteous person, tamim, he was complete before in his generation. Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue with the teachings of Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Elazar.